Ground Zero Comics, an important comic done by one of the legends of the post-underground era. Hey everyone, it's Tom. It's FANzine Live. We are doing a new releases look straight out of the Short Run Comics Festival in Seattle, Washington, back on November 1st, 2025. This is a really cool one today because we are going to look at a comic called Ground Zero Comics. It is done largely by a gentleman named Leonard Rifus, I believe his name is, R-I-F-A-S. Leonard, if I got it wrong, I deeply apologize. In the Mini Comics Revolution book, 1969 to 1989 by Bruce Crislip, and we're going to talk about this at some later point. He goes through the history of mini comics, the starting days, if you will, up through the beginning of the photocopier era. In the beginning, the origins of mini comics, we start with a mention of 1970s, the mini comics generation, Leonard Rifus. Leonard is a pioneer in the work of mini comics, of small press publishing. Leonard probably is the last of the great underground comics creators, and he's been doing it ever since. We're looking at a legend. And of course, when I'm at Short Run, Leonard comes up and says, I've got a comic if you'd like to trade. And I'm fine, sure, yeah, I'll trade with you. And I had no idea who he was. And then Steve taps me on the shoulder and says, he's one of the originals, Tom. And I'm like, oh, okay then. So it's kind of neat to be able to see what an individual who's been making comics ever since the hobby started, what he's been up to. And this is a neat book. It's published in part by Ground Zero, EduComics, and then Fantagraphics. I'll put a link to it in the show notes. Point of this is Ground Zero, we're talking about nuclear war, move beyond nuclear weapons. And working with cartoonists, Leonard has created a really compelling book to explain the challenges of nuclear weapons, even today. Apparently, the Ground Zero Center for Nonviolent Action actually welcomes cartoons. I'll put maybe a link to that in the show notes as well. But essentially, the reason why Leonard cares about this so much, I mean, beyond the we don't want our world to blow up, is that he lives in the Seattle area, and Seattle is apparently one of the, if not the major clusters of atomic weaponry for the entire world because of all the nuclear submarines that are headquartered and based out of the Seattle area. So we'll get into that. But anyway, so Leonard is the writer. It was drawn by Pat Moriarty, David Lasky, Max Klottfelter, Leonard himself, and Kelly Froh. Kelly, of course, being the organizer of the Short Run Festival. It's a very well-constructed comic. Nice heavy cardstock cover, gloss, really sharp white paper with a gloss on the inside. So what we're trying to do here is explain first the reason why we care about it. He goes into Washington's nuclear history. He talks about the mines and some of the areas where they did some testing. And then, of course, the Hanford nuclear or plutonium plant, some of the peace ceremonies they've done in Seattle. The fact that Boeing is where the first B-29 was modified to carry the bombs that destroyed Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So there's a rationale for that. And then Bangor. And Bangor is where the naval submarine base is. We talk about the number of warheads. We talk about how far you are from Bangor. Always nice to know because the closer you are, the more likelihood that if there ever is to be an atomic attack, it probably will try to take out our atomic weapons. And if you're close enough to Bangor, you're probably in trouble. The challenges of what it would be severe. Even Trump and Biden both agree it will be nothing left of our planet. It will be Armageddon. Some notions on picturing the power of nuclear weapons. And then what we're really talking about here. He goes into the science behind it. He talks about cluster bombs. He talks about Hiroshima, of course, some of the math, if you will, about the damage that could happen coming out of an atomic attack, the effects of a bomb and how they work. I mean, this is some pretty serious stuff, but done in a very straightforward, educational way. The cartooning doesn't make light of the situation, yet Leonard is smart enough to use talking animals as the ones experiencing the whole challenge of handling all these nuclear weapons. Page on Daniel Ellsberg and how he tried to come up with a less awful nuclear program or nuclear attack program. Talk about the challenges of a nuclear winter. Talking about how the bomb itself, the atomic bomb, didn't necessarily win World War II for us, that there were some other issues that we don't really talk about in the United States. We talk about how the nuclear threat exists and how we use our nuclear weapons to help us manage our place in the world, talking about how one would answer challenges. And I like this. He's got activities going all the way through this. This is the third activity. It draws you in as a reader to learn by doing. So you read a little and then you do, and then you read a little more and then you do. Very smart in the power of speaking up. This is neat. He switches away from his funny animals, which he has one of them right there. He switches to a dialogue between a child and their grandfather. And the grandfather has been through the post-war atomic age, and the information and disinformation that was used during those earlier parts of the Cold War, then rolling through Cuban Missile Crisis, then Vietnam, then talk about some of the nonviolent resistance that had happened in the 80s, the nuclear freeze movement, very big thing out in the Seattle area. They also have Bangor nearby, the peak of the arms race. Then here's an interesting point. How much of your tax dollars do you spend on nuclear weapons? And apparently it's 1% of the total tax that you paid. And then a real nice piece about just the importance of speaking out. It's very cool. It's impressive because of the lineage. It's impressive because of the message. Definitely worth getting. So glad I traded Leonard for it. And Leonard, again, thank you so much for stopping over at Short Run to say hello and to spread the word about Ground Zero Comics. This is an important thing, and I'm so glad to be able to share it. Folks, what do you think? You can kind of see from an artistic point of view, we've got a little of that old school underground feel to it. But the message, while it does go as far back as the beginning of the atomic age, it is absolutely relevant today. What are your thoughts on all of this and perhaps how it was presented? I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. And as always, don't forget, like the video, subscribe to FANzine Live, and tell your friends, because I don't know of anywhere else where Ground Zero Comics has been discussed on YouTube or the internet. Simple as that. We're talking about things that haven't been talked about. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. This is Tom. We've looked at Ground Zero Comics. I will catch you next time.